one thing you think, I'm a public artist, I'm going to work in public space, but oftentimes you really don't think about the public. You're thinking about your concept being played out in public, your concept, how people are going to love you. And the thing is that, how committed you are to an idea despite the public, really. So I think that working the way I do really allows you to gauge your public and also immediately know what they're thinking. And over the long haul, really get in touch with what matters to people visually, or what's in their imagination, what's in their subconscious, and really touch them in ways that you don't if you just basically build plans and execute them and plop them down. In some ways, there's no exchange, So I feel that viewers are incredibly important to the process, and I think that people who are working in the public art sector should think really strongly about coming to know their viewer. If you work in public like I do, you can't have a big ego. It can't ride on your shoulder. You have to defer and listen and try to. It doesn't mean you can't have a strong feeling about your work and how it should go. You have to think of your career in long terms. If you think about it in just 5-year increments, it probably doesn't work. You don't get real breaks until you've worked for 20 years. That's hard to swallow in some ways, because you think, I'm working really hard. I've done a really good job. I've got a couple magazine articles. Well, why am I not getting the kind of praise that I deserve? But really, you get a book at 20 years or something like that. So you have a lot into a career before it starts to flourish. And so that was true of me, and I see it's pretty true of a lot of other people. You get enough in your career to sustain you along, but in terms of really capitalizing a lot on what you've done takes a bit of time. I think a work exists between the maker and the viewer. It encapsulates lots of ideas, and those ideas unfortunately wear out over time. So the public, an intense amount of use of a project, often gone by 2 years. People think, oh, we'd love to have it forever. They don't really care anymore. They've kind of accommodated themselves to the idea. So in a real robust community, you don't want to buy a sculpture that's going to last 250 years. You want to get some ideas going. You want your public spaces to be turnover spaces where people get to see something new and try something new and see if they like the new thing. So I like participating in that kind of temporary work where things get made, things fade away, something else comes to play.
Do you feel like you already have an idea of what it's going to look like in the end, or does that develop as you're building?
No, I've set a parameter. I know kind of what it's going to look like, and we'll have some working ideas like, it shouldn't sit too straight. It would be better if this one leaned a little bit and that one leaned that way or this way. The actual lean that you put on it, you wait until you've built one and then think, how are these things reacting to each other? So in reaction to one, you build another, you turn this one slightly that way. You put the cold shoulder up, you put the warm hug over there, So, you're like moving these things around a little bit to give, so they don't look just so commonplace or so, that pre-planned or that you, that someone could say, oh, well, I could see that. I mean, you want to be a little, put it at odds with what people might imagine they would be or how they would work. So what makes something compelling, what makes it powerful? Part of that is the way it sits at site and makes it seem like it's really not that man-made. It might have been, there are just a lot of illusions that you capitalize on. Of course, it's man-made. Of course, it's just natural material that's been worked. But, there's a level of fantasy that you weave into the surface, and certainly your attention to the public and some of their deeper discourse, maybe some of their ways of what people have in their subconscious mind. I always say that your sponsors will tell you that it's good, but the public is unforgiving. And what we want to do is excite people's imagination and stir them up. And so you're constantly truing up your repertoire. It all ends up to be a great wave to ride,